Tim Burgess has worn many hats over the years: journalist, Seattle police officer, consultant, business owner, council member, council president, and finally, mayor of Seattle. He's played a major role in our city's growth, police reform, and early learning education.
It's been a humbling experience, but very worthwhile, and we have gotten a lot of good stuff done.
Now, as the mayor is set to retire, join us as we look back and forward with Tim Burgess. Hello and welcome to Council Conversations. I'm Josephine Cheng. Today we're at the Southwest Early Learning Preschool with Mayor Tim Burgess. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for your time. You know, you have been mayor a short time, a little more than 2 months. Do you wish it had been longer?
I'm very happy to have served the people of Seattle for, 10 years. It's great to finish as mayor. But I'm just grateful that the people trusted me and kept electing me, and happy to finish this way.
You had actually run for mayor against Ed Murray. Looking back on that, do you regret the decision to drop out of that race?
You know, it's always easy to Monday morning quarterback that stuff, but we looked at the landscape, we checked our polling, we talked to a lot of people around the city, and it was pretty clear that I wasn't going to win.
So you cut your losses?
I learned in business, cut your losses fast, and so I withdrew.
You weren't mayor long, but you were on the city council, like you said, nearly a decade. Yeah. Are there things that you wish you had time still to accomplish that you wanted to, and that maybe is going to gnaw at you later on?
I don't know if it'll gnaw at me, but I wish that I could have more successfully changed the tone of our public discourse. Especially in the last 3 to 5 years. I think we've seen it nationally on the right. We see it in Seattle on the far left. Pretty divisive conversations, a lot of name calling, a lot of bullying, frankly. And I regret not being able to stop or influence that.
How could you have? I mean,
well, I tried, and it's difficult, and I think it's a difficult time for America, and that translates down to Seattle and local politics as well. I also wish that I had been able to more successfully communicate the value of jobs and people who start businesses and invest in our city, people who move a business here or keep a business here. The business community is a member of our city family, like the rest of us, and they play an important... Are you speaking about
Amazon?
Whether it's Amazon, or I was actually thinking of the thousands of small businesses in our city that employ just a few people or 20 or 50 people. That's the bedrock of our economic strength here in Seattle, are small businesses. And I think there's a tendency for some in elected politics to attack and deride business. But I think we'll get out of that too.
You know, it's interesting, you're obviously no stranger to politics, but yet you have said that the strong political nature of the mayoral job still in some ways surprises you, right? What do you mean?
Well, I think, the mayor really is the chief executive of this large enterprise, $6 billion annual budget, almost 12,000 employees. It's a management job, primarily. Making sure that city services are delivered effectively and efficiently, making sure...
But to do that is political,
to
get things done.
You do have to be political when you're campaigning and running, but then you have to govern. And I think if you look around the country and in our history, successful politicians are those who know the difference. There's campaigning, and then there's governing. And I certainly tried to do that, and hopefully others will step up and do that in the future.
What part of the political process do you think that you were the best at?
I think I was very successful in identifying needs, gathering the evidence that support a solution for that need, and then rallying people around that. We're sitting in a preschool in West Seattle, and The preschool initiative was like that. We looked at the science of what does preschool mean to children, and then we said to the voters of Seattle, we should do this for all of our 3- and 4-year-olds, and we're on that path going forward now. So I think I was good at listening. I think I was good at finding the facts, and then bridging people to get something done, whether it was preschool or police reform or the retirement program that we've launched for all the people who work in Seattle and don't have retirement savings, being able to do that. Starting the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs in city government to help those individuals come to our city and start their family or to start a business or to thrive here when they weren't able to in their country of origin. Those are pretty successful things that I'm very proud of.
You have said before that this early learning program is, one of the things you're most proud of. Why that? Why that issue? And this is why we're here, by the way, at the preschool.
Yeah, because children that have a high-quality preschool experience, at least 1 year, ideally 2 years before kindergarten, those kids are going to thrive. They're going to have the strong and fair start that we all want for our children and that we should want for all the children of Seattle. And again, the evidence of that is just strong. It's incredibly strong that a good high-quality preschool exposure is good for those kids, not just in their academic learning, but in their social development, in their executive function skills, being able to get tasks done, being able to listen to instructions, those types of things. It's a win for the kids, it's a win for their family, and frankly, it's a win for all of us who live in Seattle.
Some of your political adversaries have called you an obstructionist. You probably read this. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that?
Well, I wouldn't call myself that, but I think that's, in Seattle, we like to label people, we like to attack people. I think if you look at my track record, it speaks for itself.
You had planned to retire, even before becoming mayor. Why now? Did your wife, Jolene, want you to retire with her so you can play together?
Well, we will play. We'll spend some time away and then figure out what we'll do next. I think we will both stay involved in Seattle. This is where we both grew up, where we raised our family, and we love the city, and we'll try to give back as much as we can going forward.
I know after this well-deserved vacation, I can't picture you just sitting on a rocker. I mean, are you really going to retire? Well, what about Superintendent of Seattle Schools? Because that's one rumor I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and that, who knows? I mean, I'm not sure that I'm the one to do that. There may be some other way for us to be involved in Seattle. I will say that education is critically important to Seattle and to our region, the entire state. 2/3 of the jobs going forward are going to require either a college education or some form of technical certification. And I think it's tragic that Seattle Public Schools have failed some of our children who need help the most, and that tends to be kids of color or children living in poverty. We have great schools, elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools that are remarkably successful. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have schools that have struggled for years and are not delivering the quality education that our children deserve. And in a city like Seattle, that should not be the case.
I see that that's tempting to you. I mean, so you're not closing the door on that possibility.
Well, no one's raised that with me except people like yourself who share rumors. So that's just not on the radar right now.
But that would be more tempting to you than something in law enforcement, which is your other background, for instance.
Yeah.
Are you done
well,
with
you're
that?
Right about that. I mean, I'm not going to be a police officer again.
Would you welcome, the incoming mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durkin, calling you up to pick your brain? What would you tell her?
Yeah.
What do you wish you had been told?
I encouraged her to run for mayor, and we talk a lot. And she's going to be an exceptionally strong and effective mayor. We should all be singing her praises and thanking her for running. It's a tough job. It's demanding. It's very fast-paced. You have to make decisions very quickly. But she'll excel at that, and she'll do very, very well.
How about your successor on the council?
Yeah, Teresa Mosqueda is also very qualified to serve on the city council. She has a very calm demeanor. She's a great listener. She's kind. She's strong in her ability to dissect issues and find the facts and determine what's best for the people of Seattle. And I'm delighted that she was elected, and so overwhelmingly.
Yes. What would you advise her? Because, you know, she's going to be new at this, too.
I think what I've told her, as we've talked, is make sure you listen well, be very pragmatic, and don't succumb to some of the political rhetoric on the extremes. Remember that you are serving the common good for all of the people of Seattle. And I think if she does that, she's going to be very, very successful.
We've talked before on this show, in fact, about your sort of evolution, you know, your political evolution in your thinking from being fairly conservative growing up and in your, you know, younger years to being a progressive. Where would you say you are now on that evolution?
Well, I'm a Democrat, and I'm center-left, if you will. And I think that's the best tradition of American politics, because the values that are shared there are focused not only on our most vulnerable neighbors who need assistance, but also on making sure that we have an economic system that is equitable, includes everyone, and truly, as the boat rises, all boats rise. That's the ideal. That's what we work for. And I think the Democratic Party has better answers to those issues than our friends on the other side. Plus, remember, I married a Democrat, and so that transition started really early on in our relationship.
Isn't that ironic, though, that some have said that you're the conservative on the council?
Yeah, I get that now. You know, I'm accused of being the pro-business guy on the council when I was there. Yeah. And I always responded to that, you bet, I love jobs.
Yeah. What do you see as the big issues facing Seattle, you know, even after you leave? What's coming up?
So there's several. I think the whole issue of police reform and making sure that all those changes we've worked so hard on the last 5 or 6 years actually take root and last, and especially if Chief O'Toole leaves.
Is she going to leave?
That the next chief of police is able to make certain that the department stays headed in the right direction, and I think it will. So that's a big issue. I think affordability of housing and just the cost of living in our city is a challenge. That's a little more difficult for the city government to pull levers there, but we can do some things. Transportation will continue to be a big challenge. Gosh, isn't it too bad that we didn't say yes to light rail in the late 1960s?
Decades
We'd be
ago.
in such better condition today. So.
Thank you so much for your time, Mayor Burgess.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I wish you luck, too, in the next chapter of your life. And who knows, you might still be around in one way or another, right?
Yeah, who knows?
Hope so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you, everyone, for watching this edition of Council Conversations. I'm Josephine Cheng. See you next time.